Okay, so today we're going to go through how to create an illustration in Photoshop. So first we're going to make our new document. I'm going to make it 8.5 by 11, same size as a printer paper so we can print it out easily. That's sort of our end goal here. So we don't, maybe ideally we would have the resolution at 300 if we knew we were going to print it out and we wanted it to look amazing. But for this, we're just going to do this at 100 for most of the stuff that we're going to do here. Just keep the file sizes down, and things like that. Not for any real life reason other than that. Okay, so first I'm just going to be doing a rough sketch here. And you could start off doing it on paper and then scanning it in, taking a picture with your phone or whatever. Okay, and I'm going to keep this real rough here. We're trying to create a sense of three-dimensional space. This is going to be our horizon line, which you don't need to have, but maybe we'll move it, I don't know. I'm going to put these on a new layer, right? We're going to click up here to create a new layer. I'm going to try to put all of our different elements on new layers so that we can change our mind later if we want to. This is going to be some sort of, maybe like a fir tree or something here, okay? And what we're looking at is just kind of planning out our space, where things are going to be at. Okay, now if I want, right, I can take my move tool and move these around. I can resize them. Maybe it makes even more sense to place this one on a different layer. If we want to do that, let's use our selection tool here. Let's make a selection around it. Oh, whenever you see that, I don't know if you noticed that, it's got a specific shape that I've made. When I let go, it's going to go back to where it started, and then when it changes shape like that. Okay, if we look down here, feathering is at 81. So what's going to happen if I copy and paste this? You're going to see it's only kind of partially selected the edges. It's kind of faded there. I don't know if you can see that. It's not dark black because the edges are softened on the selection here. Okay, I'll show you something else. Just so we have a better idea what that's doing. Let's do that. Copy and paste. There we go. Okay, so in order to fix that, before we make our selection, we'll bring that down to 0. And if we mess up like that, that's okay. Okay, if we're on new selection, every time we draw this is going to make a new one. If we're on add to selection, we can keep adding to it. So if I messed up like this, that's okay. Let's just go back and fix it up. Okay, and because we're on a layer here, you can see with this transparent background, right? Whatever layer is highlighted over here in blue, whatever layer is selected, that's the only layer that's going to be affected by whatever we do. So we've got this beautiful tree selected, and I'm not going to copy it this time. I'm going to cut it, edit, cut, Command X, right? So I was using the keyboard shortcuts there to make it disappear, to copy and paste it rather. And we're going to go edit, paste. The next time we'll do Command V, okay? Hopefully it should come up on the screen there. So I can go Command V. I'm going to switch to my move tool. And now we can decide to move this, make it bigger or smaller. And so one of the main ideas here that we talked about was objects that are close to us are going to be bigger. As they get farther away towards the horizon line, right, they're going to get smaller. And I mean, even if we don't know that concept, you can tell by looking at it like, well, this doesn't look very, there's something off about this, right? As I move this thing up, we start to get a sense that, oh, this is a smaller tree that's farther away. It starts to make sense because that's the way we see things in the world, right? That's the way things look in real life. And if I start moving this too far, it's going to start looking weird again, right? It's like how big would that tree have to be? I mean, you think about how far away the horizon line is, right? As far as you can possibly see. For something to be sticking up that high from it, like not even like a skyscraper or something, probably wouldn't, in like New York or big city, Toronto or someplace like the CN Tower would not stick up that high, you know? So I mean, it's got to be somewhere in here. Another thing is we probably want to avoid doing things like this where this lines up. It just happens to line up perfectly with the horizon line there. and we want to avoid that type of thing. Not because in real life it might not be able to happen, right? I mean, that could conceivably, you could find yourself in a position where you can see a tree and it's perfectly lined up with the horizon, but it looks a little odd. Okay, and because we can put it wherever we want, let's put it somewhere else so it makes more sense. Okay, so this tree is, I'm finding too big, and I'm going to move this over here. And we can adjust this later too. This is just a real rough copy here, right? So let's keep moving here. We're going to have some clouds in the sky. Clouds at the top of our image are going to be larger, closer to us as they get towards the horizon. Okay, they're going to become very small. Another thing is, it's kind of good to have things go off the edge of our frame. Like this cloud sticks off the edge here. Maybe this one even could go over there more. Right? I'm just going to undo, edit, undo that last thing I made there so that I can put it on a new layer and make this so that I can switch back here. So this is on a separate layer, and I'll slide this over. We don't have to, you know, but we could decide that wants to be off there. Just gives us some options, and we can fix it when we draw our actual copy here again, right? So this one, maybe I want to move this one down though. Okay, let's go with this for now. And although I'm kind of feeling like maybe I want to have something, some sort of like building or something, like blocking our view. I'm not sure how big to make it. So let's do something like this. And then what are these layers? Is this one? This little tree. Maybe we'll move it over here. And maybe in this building we're going to have, let's put some windows in this thing, okay? 1, 2. Okay, really rough here. And I'm sort of intentionally using a mouse. You know, if we use like a graphics tablet of some sort, we could do a nicer rough drawing, or in real life I would do this on paper probably first, because I prefer to start it on paper, but or on an iPad or something with a pencil, you know, something it's a little easier to draw with than a mouse. I think people, so I'm sort of doing this on purpose so that you don't think, oh man, I can't do this. Like, okay, look at this, look how bad this is. You could do this, okay? So I'm just trying to figure stuff out like this. Do we want to have 2 rows of windows in here? Maybe we want a second one started here, okay? So we'll do something like this. And, okay, so this is kind of, maybe we'll do this. Maybe this is even bigger now. Okay. Also, this Autoselect Layer, you'll notice if I engage this, check, okay, I'll be able to click on things and move it. But because a lot of them are hollow, like I don't have it filled in, if I don't click right on that line, if I click here, see it doesn't know which layer I'm trying to grab. And so I had this turned off so that I could select my layer over here. No matter where I click, it's going to be on that layer. Okay. And I really don't like these 2 little clouds there. Now that we've done that, let's do this. Last time we used our lasso, we can go delete. Okay, let's undo that. Just the backspace key, like you're typing, you hit the backspace key, right? Or we could use like the eraser. In this case, the opacity is down. I'm going to slide this up. Whenever you're trying to do something and it's like, this isn't working right. Okay, you always go and check all the options. We're on our normal sort of eraser tool here, right? We're not on one of these ones, so that's okay. We check what kind of, we're on this brush setting, so we check our brush. Looks okay. Check the size, the opacity, right? We want this to be at 100 if we want to completely be erasing things. Okay. And I'll leave the clouds No, I'm going to put some clouds in. Let's put some more. Maybe this comes out down here. I don't know. Maybe from behind this building there's one kind of, that's a little big. Maybe up here more. And there's a little one down here. Something like that. Okay. So now I'm sort of getting a little too nitpicky for this project here, but I was just looking at my kind of overall composition here, trying to figure out if I like the kind of space in between all the objects, right? And it doesn't really matter at this point because I can move it later. I'm going to create all these objects on different layers, but the sooner the better, right? The more information we have, the sooner the better we can kind of plan out, and the less we'll have to change things later as they get more complex. So, well, it's not the end of the world to do it later. I think I kind of like that, how this tree might poke into that one. Let's try that. This building, I don't know if I like. I think it needs, at the very least here, some sort of dimensionality, dimensional third dimension to it maybe. I guess it wouldn't need to. Maybe this would go back that way depending on the angle that we're on here, but it looked a little weird. I might keep it like that anyway for now. Think about that. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, we want to reduce the opacity of all these layers. Okay, so we're going to be doing this. Okay, and we just need to be able to see it, right? We want to be able to draw over top of it without having it be so visually disruptive to us. So we can't plan out what we're doing. Okay, and this is going to be slightly tedious, but there's a little bit of a shortcut. We're going to use the Move tool here. And when we have that selected, we click on a layer. If I hit just a number key without clicking anything, I'm not touching the mouse even, just press the number 5. The opacity goes to 50%. Press 2, 20, 0, 100, 1, 10. You can even type in a number, 12. Okay? Let's bring this down to 10. 10. That one's turned off. 10, 10, 10, 10. Okay. Next thing I want to do, I've got the bottom one selected already. I'm going to hold. Is there anything on this? I don't like having layers. I don't know what they are. It gets a little confusing, right? I probably could name these to keep things organized, but this is just going to be mostly serving as a. I'm going to dump this one. Serving as a like a base kind of rough sketch, right? So I'm not super worried about this. I'm just going to link these together like this, and Photoshop elements here I'm using, I can't lock all of them at once. I don't remember if I can do that in CC or not, which I feel like you probably can. And let's do that. Okay. So, and there's nothing on this one, right? So this is where we're going to start our actual drawing. Okay, and instead we're going to do kind of geometric kind of drawing here, right? We're using elements, so we don't have a pen tool or Bezier curves or anything like that. So we don't want to have to use the brush to do curved lines because it's going to look really bad. It's going to look really like amateurish, right? So let's start off. This is going to be sort of easy to do, this big rectangle here. And what color do we want this building to be? Gray seems like a normal color. I'm thinking to do something a little more interesting here. Let's try this. And we're going to switch to our paint bucket. And we could fill this in. Okay, so we make our selection, take our color, or maybe we can give it a slight gradient. I'm going to pick this color. If I move my mouse outside of that area, you'll notice it turns into the eyedropper tool. So now that I've got that exact color selected, right? Let's do this again here. Okay. So I click on here, and I want to get this color. Click there. It's going to show it to me. I'm going to pick something maybe a little darker if I wanted to, right? And whoops, I meant to select. Sorry, I thought I was selecting the background color. Here's our foreground color and our background color. So it doesn't really matter which, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select this one, and now I want to actually keep it that color, right? I kind of mixed up a little bit. I wanted one the same and one a little darker. Okay. Sorry if I confused you there. So I've still got this selected. If I didn't have it selected, let's say I did that by mistake, one, I've got almost nothing done here. I could just make a new rectangle, right? But if I wanted it exactly like that, okay, we can do a little trick. Hold the command button, and notice the mouse is going to be right on top of the little thumbnail there. Click. Okay, we now we've got that selected. Go back to my gradient tool next to my fill bucket, and we could create a gradient like this across here, or maybe you want to go up and down, so we get a little brighter as it gets up maybe. I don't know. Okay, and let's do a couple windows here. And making a new layer. Now, we could do this lots of ways. We could create a border around this. We could decide to fill this in with, what are we going to be seeing here in the window? Maybe we can see inside, and there's going to be lights on inside. Maybe not super bright. And again, let's that was a little bit weird. There we go. It should have done that. It's being a little funny. Let's do this. We'll fill this in with a bit of a gradient. Maybe I'll use this radial gradient here, kind of like that. Okay, and you're getting a command click in here again, and we could do a couple of different things here to create like a little outline, like a border. Okay, we can go stroke or outline our selection. Let's make this black. Let's try 2 pixels on the inside of this line. So it's going to start on the line and go 2 pixels in. Maybe let's make it 5. Okay. Alright, that looks alright. And I'm going to take both of these, I'm going to link them together so that wherever one goes, the other one goes. Okay, I'm going to take both of these, right click, duplicate layers. Okay. It took way longer doing my little intro drawing there, basic stuff than I wanted to, but that's okay. Okay, so another thing we can do to do that, we're going to go Option. So I hold down the Option button, you can see the arrow turns into those double arrows. Click, I'm going to hold the Shift button, so I've got Option and Shift held. The Shift button will help make sure I drag it perfectly straight down. You notice my mouse is moving, but the thing is not. If I let go of the Shift, and now how do I line this up again? Exactly, right? It's going to be, maybe we can do it, but it could be a little tricky. If I hold Shift, it's going to constrain that movement. The other thing is, if I wanted this to be exactly the same distance apart, unfortunately, in Photoshop Elements, there's not a super easy way to do that, other than like measuring it out, which we could do. I would probably take something like this, just so we know if we wanted to be super precise here. Like if you're using Illustrator or something, right, we can just like duplicate, like Command D will repeat the same action, and it's specifically sort of made to do things like that, right? I would just make, let's name this measure, we can call it like window measure or something. I would just usually do something like this and pick like a color that we maybe not going to use so much, and zoom in real close, make sure it's on top of everything so it's not disappeared behind, and we should be able to see, even if I use a little arrow key and move this down, 1 or up, okay, lines up pretty good. And then I would just drag this thing down there, move this, and now let's turn on our Autoselect layer again. Take this, oh, I didn't link those together, see, that's why I wanted to link those before. Let's take that one and this one, link those two. Okay, so I'm going to leave the rest, but you know, if it was linked so they moved together, that would be better. All right, and then again, we could do the same thing this way. If we wanted to measure, we could even use this measure. If we wanted to keep it the same distance apart, right? Arrow this over. That's what happens in your rush, right? You always make mistakes. You're trying to be fast or slow. Trying to be slow, you're fast. Or slow. Sometimes that doesn't work out either. Okay. I just thought of an idea here, I think. No, I didn't. I was thinking to do this with our building, to maybe have this, oops. Oh, it's locked. There we go. See, it wouldn't let me draw on that layer, right? Because it was locked. Okay, so we'll unlock it. My thought was to do something like this to see the top of that building. Maybe I still will. It sort of puts it up in the air like we're looking down, like we're in a helicopter, or maybe we're in another building or something. So I kind of do like that idea. Okay. Let's continue on here. We're going to use this tool. Let's make a tree here. Okay. And I'm going to draw this whole tree. Even though it sticks off the edge, I want to be able to move it around a little bit. And here, again, we don't need to trace this thing that I made exactly. We need to decide like kind of what style of illustration we want to do. And we want to kind of stick with the same kind of style throughout. So if I'm going to go with this kind of like a wonky looking tree like this, okay, that can be okay, except I got to do the other ones kind of the same. I don't want to make the other one like perfect looking or use a different style. Okay, otherwise it's going to look a little weird, right? So I'm not sure if I completely like this at the top. Partly, I'm not sure I dislike it either though. It looks weird, but I might be okay with it for some reason. I'm not sure why I'm sort of okay with this. Let's go like that. Oh, it chopped it off, see? I thought it was going to let me do that. It did not. Okay, so I kind of don't like that. Because what if I decide later I want to move this over here? Okay, and right now we're thinking that we're not going to, but I mean, who knows? Who are we to know what we want to do later, right? I don't even know what I want to do 2 seconds from now. Okay, I'm going to predict what I think about this thing tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to redraw this thing in the center here. And I'm going to hold Shift to make sure this stays straight. And it's looking a little too wide, actually. I'm going to start this over. I feel like I want it to be a little narrower, and sometimes this is hard to tell until you start doing it, right? Maybe I want this to kind of go up a little at the bottom, I don't know. Okay. Make a new layer. Yep. Fill it in. Deselect it. Okay, and now if I move this and I decide I want it there, I can. If I decide I want it here, I can. If I decide I want to repeat this over here, make it smaller and have another tree that's exactly the same, I can do that. Okay? There we go. Maybe before I do that though, maybe I also want to create our tree stump here, whatever's going to go in here. Okay, so I'm thinking to do brown would be kind of the go-to color for that probably, right? But I'm feeling like I'm not sure I want to do that. Okay. So, oops, change this one. So we got to figure out the direction that our light's coming in here at this point. If we're creating shadows on one side, okay, that means the light's coming from this side. And in this case, I don't know that it is. I'm almost wondering if I should go down like this, a bit darker at the top and the bottom. Let's try that, at least for now. Put this underneath there. Okay. And, you know, we can do some other things with this later if we don't like it. We can decide to fix this thing up if I don't like this, which I don't. Okay, if I wanted to keep coming like this on this down kind of angle, it could be tricky to get this exactly. So we could do a couple different things here. I'm sort of inclined to do this even. What if we bring this out and then back up and then back down here? And on that same layer now, what if we just fill that space in? Whoops. With the same color. Eyedropper. Back to fill tool. See, that left a little line there. I could try to fill it again or get a brush. Okay. And then you can delete this part. Okay, so right now we can only, you see I can't paint out here. It'll only let me do anything to the area I've got selected. I want to erase this area. I could deselect it and try to erase it or try to draw that again. Instead, what I'm going to do is select the inverse. So now we have the opposite. You notice I can paint out here now. And I couldn't paint in here. Okay, now I just want to erase this little section. Okay, I'm just going to take my eraser and you can see it went over there because that's outside. I'm going to undo that. Right? Make this eraser a little smaller. Make sure you can get right in there. Okay. And really, we're on the same layer. I really could have just hit the delete button. Watch if I undo this. Undo my eraser. Okay, so I undid the invert thing as well, right? This came back, and I can tell because I can't see the selection on the edge. Watch when I go select inverse. You'll see these little marching ants, the moving line, appear on the edge of our whole document. Now it lets us know I'm selected from here into here, all the space in here. And we're on this layer. There's nothing else on this layer. That's the other nice thing if you're working with everything on its own layer. Okay. I just deleted everything. That's not what I wanted to do. Didn't account for that. That's okay. Undo. It still illustrates the point. There we go. I'm going to hold to that idea. So we are going to, we'll use our eraser here still. That's all. In my head, I was thinking that we would have just had that little section, but I think I needed some more coffee. Okay. And now, if I take both of these, link them together. Okay, and now I can duplicate these, right? And make it smaller. And now I've got the trunk there as well. Okay, and I can still, if I want to, which one is this? This is the small one. Let's call it small. Okay, and I can still take this guy. Maybe we want to squash it down a little bit. Or no, I don't want to do that. Here we go. Okay. So we'll do something else with the clouds here. So we want them to have kind of like a swirly edge maybe. And Photoshop Elements is not really great at making smooth curvy lines because we're lacking a pen path tool of some sort. So lots of different ways we could still do this. I'm going to make it in this blue color, even though the sky is usually blue, right? And the clouds are white. So we could do something like this, even just using like a hard edge brush and stamping this. We could make some kind of clouds like this. Okay. Or we could kind of paint this in the way we want. And again, I'm going to try to avoid having this hard edge on there. Okay, so that later, if I want, I can move it again or use it for something else maybe, okay? So I'm going to do something like this. And this doesn't look so bad, but these little wobbles like this in the lines look a little unintentional. And anything that looks accidental looks amateur. Okay, professional, somebody who's got lots of experience, very specific about what they do, why they're doing it. It looks a certain way because they know it looks good that way, right? They're not like, I don't know if I know how to fix that. I don't know how much time I have left. Okay, none of that stuff. So, I mean, for the demo, that's what I'm doing, exactly what I'm not supposed to do. I'm trying to sort of expediently get through this, and it's still taking longer than I wanted, but that's okay. Okay, what was I going to show you guys? Distort, liquefy. Okay, lots of other filter effects here. We could do, some of the other things would be similar. Okay, first thing I'm going to zoom in here. use the space bar to get my move around there tool. And we could do this warp. Here's the size and the pressure. So when the pressure is higher, it's going to create a more noticeable effect more quickly. Okay. And we could use this. Sometimes this does, you can see it's made like a weird thing there, right? I don't really like that at all. Looks pretty wacky. Okay. We could try to, so we could use that tool and sort of smoosh things around. Maybe we'll do a little bit more. If we make it a little smaller. Okay, you can kind of see what we can do anyways. So this will allow us to create some lines that I think will be smoother than if we tried to draw them with just a brush tool and a mouse. Okay, especially if we make this bigger and rely on the smoothingness of it. Now this cloud's looking a little weird. Okay, that's okay. Maybe we wanted to create some kind of wacky cloud. Okay, we can also try some of these other ones. And see what happens if I just click here, for example. Change the pressure. Okay, I'm just not even moving my mouse, I'm just holding it. It's going to do like a swirly thing. If I move my mouse even just a little bit now, you'll see it starts to swirl things, swirling things around in that direction. Okay. It's a little hard to predict what it's going to do, I find, but you still can get some kind of cool effects with it. And this bloat tool as well, we can, you know, use this to make people's eyes look a little bigger and stuff sometimes. Kind of. Okay, so we could create some kind of cool looking, pretty smooth looking organic-y shape. Okay, let's click, where did that go off the top? Nope. Okay. Let's click OK. And that looks like a crazy cloud. But you know what? If all the clouds kind of look crazy, and we could even add some other crazy elements here, then the whole thing will kind of make sense, right? Okay, let's make another one. I'm going to cheat a little bit here, and we'll let's rotate this around. This sort of looks like it becomes pretty obvious that that's like a duplicate, so I don't know if I like that really. Maybe I'm gonna maybe I'll just put it like on a, let's do this. Maybe we'll squash it down here maybe, and then rotate it a bit. Okay, and this needs to be behind the tree, of course. Okay, maybe I don't like that little bit. Let's just erase this thing. Okay, I don't know if I like this either. This is risky, but maybe we could erase this little bit with our soft edge kind of brush. You can go around the whole thing like that and make the edge kind of soft and fuzzy. Or we could do this. Let's try this. Command click. And let's get a selection tool. We're going to go refine edge. And the problem with doing this now is it's off the edge of the thing again, right? So it's going to have a weird effect on the rest of it. But if we feathered this edge or selection like this, and let's kind of shift it in a little bit. Output to a selection. Click OK. I just delete. Other way, we're going to invert and delete. Okay, we can get kind of like a faded edge or something if we wanted to do that. You know, we could go around with an eraser and a soft edge, and let's do it to the other one so we can kind of see the difference. Okay, the danger is if you do like too much or too little or something, and you know, maybe we want to get rid of that hard edge. And that looks pretty cloud-like. So we can even just kind of modify our shapes. That looks all right. I think I like that better than this look. And that's okay, you know. We got to be willing to kind of change our mind as we go here, right? It's part of the process. And let's go down here. Let's turn some of these off. Let's turn these clouds off. This one, this one. Okay, where is this building? Okay, so we need our horizon line, we need a sky, we need a ground of some sort. So we can fill those in with gradients or colors. I think I'm gonna wrap this up here for now, maybe. This video is getting a little bit lengthy. Maybe actually one more thing. Let's do a bit of a ground here. Let's get ourselves a horizon line. So where do we want this thing to be? Do we still want it there? It sort of looks okay there. Okay, we could do this on a new layer. Now what color is this ground going to be? Some sort of greenish grass color. Might be sort of obvious, but I mean, we can change the color of this building. We've got kind of a lot of green here. I don't know if we're going to have too much or it's going to be too many different types of greens. You know, we didn't talk about like picking a color palette or anything before that, so we're kind of just winging it here. But let's see how this goes. We could even make this a gradient like this. Let's see. It's not so bad. Okay, so we could do something like that. All of a sudden we have our sky, except our sky is white and blue instead of blue and white, right? Usually the clouds are white, the sky's blue. But we can leave it like that, okay?